I'll be no good on TV.
The Doctor Who Alhambra Podcast. Real Doctor Who fans with real Doctor Who opinions.
God damn it. Take 10. Hello and welcome to the Doctor Who Alhambra Podcast with myself, Liam, and joining me today is...
Brett. Hello. And we are...
And unfortunately, our other co-host is getting intimately acquainted with his toilet.
Yeah. That's one of the joys in life of having kids is they share everything with you. Too much information and lots of germs and bacteria. So
yeah, as Douglas Adams said, share and enjoy.
Exactly. All right. So, well, this podcast, I'm excited for this one because yeah.
Oh, just before we start, mm-hmm. I did have some sad news to report.
Oh wait.
I would like to report.
Wait. Eh? Is this about the thing that you announced to us on the group?
Yeah.
Okay, just 1 second, because I do have something. All right, ready?
Okay.
I
would like to report an unfortunate casualty. And maybe propose a minute silence. The said casualty is my persona on the Facebook fan group, as I have left. So, no more from me on there. Cause, fed up of the BS.
Yeah, well, let me say a few closing and parting words regarding Liam's presence from the Facebook fan page. As we mourn the presence of Liam on the Facebook fan page, his presence will be tremendously missed. The amount of anger and frustration he causes by members as well as the admin will go down perhaps in infamy as we mourn the departure from this group. From this point forward, the admin's hairline, receding as it may have been, will start growing and flourishing in the standard hairline pattern in which it was supposed to be accustomed to. As the member in which this eulogy is being given will no longer be able to post and then repost another question, and then repost a synopsis and follow-up question, causing anxiety and actually sparking interesting conversations amongst said members of the groups. We hold our head low in mourning, and we remember Liam as once a strong contributor of the Doctor Who Facebook fan page. And now, for a moment of silence.
This day will be held in infamy. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, yeah. I will tell you, I'm almost glad that I'm sad and glad because I'm sad that you left the listeners group. And when I saw your post on the audio group, I was super happy because lately the audio group has just been like firing on all cylinders. And I have I have a couple of things here that again, this podcast, I want you to, this is personally, and something I've been excited about to talk to about since probably about Wednesday of this week, this is basically what fans talk about. And you left a group because the group that you left, well, you were kind of allowed to talk about certain things, and you were kind of
allowed to talk, but you were allowed to talk with, with a gun to your head. So it was kind of like, yeah, you can talk, just don't step out of line, bitch. Do you know what I mean?
So wait, are you telling me that the listeners group is run by communists in the Soviet Union or whatever?
Yeah, maybe. If you step out of line, the penguin gets it.
Ooh.
Because we had a discussion of, I think, actually, we may have raised it in the podcast, the discussion about the artwork. And I posted it, with the whole AI thing and artwork. And I said, what's the worst? What are people's opinions on the worst Big Finish artwork?
No, this was not on the podcast. This happened, I think, a week and a half ago.
Yeah.
And you posted it. You told me you posted it. And I went to look for it.
No, got taken down.
I think you sent me a message within 5 minutes, and it never made it through.
No.
And here's my belief. I think you and a couple other people were on a list to immediately have your posts. Well, not, if you replied to somebody, whatever, but, starting off a thread, if your thread started, I think
Flagged.
You and a couple other people were flagged on a list, and it had to be okayed by the admin to allow into said, group.
Yeah.
And the main reason why I believe that is shortly after your post never showed up, I was looking at the group, and the group actually had somebody ask a question. It was on a post. They said, "This is what's going on? This is the second time I've tried to ask this question, and the first time it never showed up. And what's going on? Is there something wrong with my question?" And the guy restated his question. And the admin was just like, there must have been, they tried to sideways walk around basically them saying, well, we nuked your question because we didn't either like it or it was a controversial question. Now, I can't remember offhand, but it was one of those things where
I read that post and it wasn't that bad. I'm like, come on, if we can't ask questions, then what can we do as fans? Do you know what I mean? What do fans do?
Well, and
they question, they debate, and any of my posts on that group, did I call out any of the producers, any members
by
of the group,
name,
any of the writers?
Nope. No.
So
nope, you have not.
I didn't break the rules, but apparently I broke the rules on that last post. I don't get it. Just
no. And here's an interesting thing, because I like what you just said just a second ago. What can we talk about about fandom? And I will tell you, if you're listening to this and you have a controversial thought or opinion or whatever about anything that we've reviewed or anything or whatever, email the show at Alhambra Podcast or at alhambraaudio@gmail.com. Tweet the show at Alhambra Podcast, because here's an interesting thing. So the only time I ever pull up Twitter is prior to a podcast.
Wait, that's a question, right? If Twitter is now called X, what are they calling tweets?
They're called X's, or actually an X.
Serious?
So you do an X
the show.
Yep.
Oh my
God. But I'm old and curmudgeon, and I'm not changing my terminology. It's still going to be Twitter. It's still a tweet. Whatever.
I mean, and that's fine with me. I'm that old. I've left Twitter.
Anyway,
so
Yeah. Well, actually, I do have a standby account. You can also reach kind of Liam, which it's not Liam. It's actually me, at the Twitter handle of DuckBomb89.
You're doing this
because
God.
And I will tell you, after I did it, I was laughing hysterically while I was creating this account. Then I created a anger tweet that was something that you would have said. And actually, during the process of doing that, I immediately had regrets, because that was the first time I've ever tweeted something on purpose since 2020. I left in July of 2020, never looked back. I only have the Twitter account as a means to communicate and do show promotions. and I don't really do a good job of doing show promotions on there. But the instant I went to do my first fake Liam outrage anger tweet, which was all about you being angered about having to do the show intro for the next episode of the podcast, I immediately hated myself because, like I told you guys on in the group, like I'm 100% away from politics, and I have customized my life so I don't have to see it, hear it, whatever. And the instant I created Liam's fake Twitter account, that was the first thing of politics I've seen in 5 months, and it angered me. And then I thought about it, and so that angered me. But also because of the tweet handle DuckBomb89, I'm sitting there thinking, I think I'm probably on some sort of like no-fly list. So you know what, Liam? I was trying to, in a couple of years, go visit you in England. I don't think I'm allowed on a plane now. I was gonna, I want, I want to go to like, Australia and New Zealand and stuff like that, Italy. I think I'm just resigned to like, travel by car or by boat now. So, well, and that's what I get for creating mocking you the other day for a Twitter account. And yeah, I've probably like doomed myself to like no fly list permanently. So
I'd just say probably just best not to go near any ducks for a while.
Yeah, that's true. Which is hard because I have a duck pond right by my condo. So, I mean...
Oh, dear.
And...
Isn't karma fun?
So, yeah, exactly. So, I want to kind of go back to what I was going to go from what you were saying. So, I like what you said previously about what are we allowed to talk about as fans and what are we not allowed to talk about by fans? And so, I jump onto Twitter, and because I'm curious what the threads surrounding Doctor Who Doomsday has been, I go and I, hashtag Doctor Who Doomsday. And the first 2 tweets that pop up in that, tag is this. I'm going to read the first one. It says, guys, I could not care less about about this, which is why I don't talk about it. That is so weird because now you're talking about it. And but then this guy continues, says, but seeing the same replies saying how they don't care about this multimedia event is probably more annoying than the conception of Doomsday. And there's another one. I was looking at somebody else kind of talking about the event, and they basically went on a multi-tier barrage anger tweet, basically saying, if you don't like it, stop telling everybody that, or if you don't care about it, stop telling everybody that you don't care about it and you're not going to listen to it. This is so annoying. And it's just like, well, wait, but this is what fans do. So you're angry that people are posting their opinions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is why I really don't like social media, because on one platform, you're almost like communist, Putin affied into what you can say and what you can't say. And then the other one is like the friggin' Wild West. And, it's every outlaw for himself. There's literally no middle ground on social media, on the main, quote unquote, big ones, platforms.
Which I will tell you, I'm actually all for the Wild Wild West. I mean, if it's going to be ultimate censorship to ultimate say anything, Sure. No, I'm up for that because, I mean, yeah, sure, freedom of speech. I believe you have the right to say what you want. However, there are limits to that in the sense of, as long as you're being respectful, obviously, and you're not being slanderous or hurtful or racist or whatever, all those other isms. But yeah, I think Facebook and I think certain fan groups are like, I swear there's influences of China and Russia there, like seriously, because you just get censored on so much. And it's almost like you have to really, like, you have to sit down for 5 minutes, think about the question, and then go, no, hang on.
is that actually gonna is that kosher enough? Is that gonna pass mustard? And get through the vetting process. And I'm like, as a fan, why should we have to do that? Can't we just put out a question and get responses, get debates going?
Yeah.
And as I said, as long as the question isn't offensive, isn't slandering any writers directly, because I swear they've never heard of indirect sarcasm.
Mm-hmm.
But I think as long as all that's clear, then why aren't we?
Yeah.
Why shouldn't we be allowed to view and post our own opinions and thoughts and ideas and questions for debates on social media? Because shit, that's what fans do.
Well, exactly. It's one of those things where I looked forward to the day. I've been going to my local comic book store for about 3 years now. And I always look forward for the day that I walked in and heard a whole bunch of people arguing with each other over nerd stuff. And it's one of those things where I walked in and this was hysterical because people were sitting there talking about the Disney Plus Secret Invasion TV series. And I have my own thoughts about it. But everybody kind of came in and you could tell out of the 5 people, 3 people really enjoyed it. And the other 2 just sat with their hands folded and did not say anything.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if they were fearful of disagreeing or what, but it was just like, this could have been a fun conversation.
But
and now it is 3 people talking about how...
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing.
Yeah.
I would genuinely be intrigued to go on Facebook and look at the main Facebook pages for Star Wars, Star Trek, etc., just to compare between all of the main 3. Because let's face it, Star Wars, Star Trek, and Doctor Who are the main 3 franchises, right? For science fiction, at least.
Yeah.
Agreed. And
yep.
So I would genuinely be interested to sort of see what the group dynamic is like in those main groups. So, yeah. But it's just baffling to me how that group is just ruled with an iron fist and you just have to really sort of double and triple check what you can post half the time. Yeah. And I think as a fan, it's not fair because you're being hampered unfairly, I think, in a lot of regards, to post interesting questions. Granted, I mean, look at the question I posted. All right, it didn't get many responses, but did you think it was well worded? In the audio group?
It was well worded. Mm-hmm. Yeah. In fact, what was it? I was in the process of telling you how greatly well worded it was when school started, and then I never hit send. So, but because it was funny, because I went to go repost something, or because of Legion's thing or whatever, and there it is all of my thing that I was saying. And I forgot to hit the send key. I'm like, oh, there it is. Well, that's probably about 3 days too late.
Because I didn't see I didn't see Legion's post. You see, so I just posted something off, and for the longest time I was like, maybe it's been taken down or whatever, or just deleted.
Which is funny because had you done that in the other group, your post would have been taken down because Legion had already posted it, and it would be your fault for not skimming through everything to make sure that it had not already been said before.
Which again,
so I want to do a compare and contrast between the Big Finish audio group and the Big Finish listeners group. So this is, I'm going to start off with the Big Finish audio group, and they posted this. And like I said, I think I told you guys in the group, and this is before you quit the group. I think that, I don't know if this is what pushed you over the edge, but around this time is when you announced that you'd left. So in the audio group, somebody put this post and says, I was surprised to find that the coda to Once and Future will be released in November 2024, a year later. Is this right, or is this a misprint on the website? Surely it's meant for November 2023. And so then there is a article there's a link that goes to the release date for the coda, the final act.
Yep.
And at the same time, on the Big Finish listeners group, I'm not sure if it is friend of a podcast, but
it was.
Somebody
pushed me
friend of the podcast. Yeah. So friend of the podcast does this. What the hell, Big Finish? You drop 1 month for your 60th special, then delay the last part for a year. It will be the 61st anniversary before we hear the final part. Not impressed at all. Poor marketing decision. Now, I want to go through because I posted to you, and the difference between the discussion board. So on the audio group, it was somebody asked here's like the thread. So somebody came in and is like, this was asked when it first was announced. Big Finish confirmed that it will be a year for this release. And then, somebody said, well, it's a coda, so that might make sense. Then again, really interesting thing. People started to speculate. They're like, well, perhaps what they're doing is there is a appearance that the BBC is not allowing to have happened. Maybe this appears somewhere in the up and coming season. Somebody, else said, because Russell T Davies has said that he would like to kind of have like a little bit more closer niche, more closer community between the show and some of the other multimedia stuff. So there was a really fun, engaging discussion. Whereas in the Big Finish listeners group, it is somebody came in and said, it's not postponed. This was announced. This is correct. And so the person who initially posted is like, well, but 1 year, is this poorly planned or whatever? And then somebody accused him of, throwing all of his toys out. Why are you throwing out your toys out or whatever? And, the funny thing is no admin was commenting on this. However, they commented on it by deleting the entirety of everything.
Wow.
Like, you could have had, I took screenshots because it started to get interesting because somebody said, well, this decision is actually down to the BBC apparently. And somebody said, really? Is there copyright issues? And they said, no, I think they're going to bring a character that they can't use until a year from now. Again, interesting, both two same question on the same day, done by two different people. One of them was heavily criticized by the group, and then so much so that the admin deleted the entire thing. Whereas the other one still exists, fun conversations, and people are speculating and kind of like, now not only the 60th anniversary is an excitement, but, a year from now is excitement. Also, the up-and-coming Doctor Who series, post the specials, maybe series 14 or whatever, is met with more excitement too. So you have, again, and that's the shame of the heavy-handedness of the Big Finish listeners group.
The thing is,
you have the opportunity. Yeah.
I don't understand why that got taken down, because I tried to ask said person, hey, why did it get taken down? And they didn't respond. So I don't know if they even know, or if it just got deleted. And I'm sorry, but there was nothing in that post that was malicious or rule breaking. So why delete it? It's just Putin-esque. It really is. We don't like criticism, so it's cherry picking. Well, it's kind of like how you've and again, I'm not getting at you, but it's how you've modified your timeline to not see politics. I get it. I agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
I do the exact same thing. But that's what they're doing. They cannot and don't want to see criticism.
Yeah.
And that to me speaks volumes for the overall state of Big Finish and what the hell's going on, because I don't think they've got a clue what's going on at Big Finish at the minute.
Well, and here's and you bring up a good point right there, because like, why would they constantly make all of these mistakes? Again, there's still a lot of discussion and being brought up more so on the audio group regarding like the lack of information, synopsises, trailers, or whatever. I feel as though people are fearful for on the Big Finish group. And here's the other thing. So if you are in, I have a YouTube channel. Obviously, we have this podcast or whatever. If you have a fan group and you are doing something comic book wise, Doctor Who, Star Wars, Star Trek, whatever, and you create something, well, feedback should be expected. And if negative feedback comes up, it's either a learning thing for yourself, or it is, oh, well, these people have the opposite, opinion. That is perfectly fine. Like, I am all for hearing negative feedback and also positive feedback. Like, I won't run away from that. I block, political stuff is because all it is like adults arguing, taking things out of context, which again, fans kind of do it. Exactly. But it's one of those things where like, I'm not a fan of this. I am a fan of Doctor Who. I am a fan of Star Trek, and I can handle, disagreement. I feel as though the admin, they wanted to create a Big Finish listeners group, but they're like, we need to make
create
sure,
like a utopia, really. And it's all fun here.
Well, here's the other thing.
And it's kind of like, blowing smoke up their own ass, isn't it? It's, because there's Big Finish people in here who are writers, who are directors, and it's, they don't want to see negativity.
No, right there. That's you hit it on the head perfectly, because when I did some research on these people that were trying to defend, don't say anything negative about Doctor Who Doomsday on Twitter, when I went to their bio, they were all aspiring actors. I think, this is my opinion, I think the admin are possibly, doing Paul Sprague's memorial scripts or whatever. And if they're worried because they do have people who are on, Big Finish writers, Big Finish production people who are in that Big Finish listeners group, I think there is some fear that if they allow anything negative, it will hurt their potential future for doing something with Doctor Who.
Yeah, but I'm sorry. But you're a writer.
Yeah.
If you cannot take negative criticism, how do you grow as a writer?
Exactly.
Exactly. If that was Russell T Davies back in the 80s when he was doing Crossroads, and Coronation Street, and then he went on to do, his first kids show, Dark Season, in 1990. What if it had all been if he'd just seen negativity? I highly doubt that he would have gone, oh, no, you know what, screw it. Writing, perhaps I shouldn't write.
Well, it's the same thing with Chris Chibnall. Like, he claimed that he on purpose was not paying attention to social media. That's what he claimed. I don't believe him. But he claimed that so that when people were criticizing him, he he didn't do any adjustments. Like, oh my word, I'm kind of pissing off the fans. Like, I think maybe I need to be a little bit more vocal about something. I need to maybe do some corrections. There's two possibilities. Either, yes, he is correct, he wasn't listening to social media and the criticism, or he was, and he decided to on purpose double down to stick it to the fans. Those are two possibilities of what had happened.
Prime example of this is the Ahsoka show on Disney Plus at the minute. That's fantastic. We're only 2 episodes in, and of course it's written by Dave Filoni as well as other writers, but he knows Star Wars. He gets Star Wars. He gets the characters. He knows what needs to be done. It is a really tightly written show so far, and probably the best Star Wars show on Disney Plus that they've put out. I haven't watched Andor yet, but I have seen all of Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett. But he's introducing new elements into canon now, at least, which have been around in Legends for a while, and he's obviously made some changes and certain little tweaks here and there. But he is introducing elements that other people are aware of in Legends, but it's working, and this is why I'm hopeful for Doctor Who, because we know we have a writer who has grown as a writer from when he first did his first stint on the show to now. It's been 10 years plus. So, and some of the dramas he's been putting out in the meantime between The End of Time and the 60th anniversary are amazing. It's the same with Strange New Worlds on Star Trek. Discovery is ending. Clearly, people have gone and realized, oh, actually, this isn't Trek. This is not what people signed up for, and it shows, because they've got people that understand the characters, understand the universe that they're working in, and what their limitations are. So, I think that if you can't take criticism as a writer, then you don't grow and you don't improve.
Yeah. No, and I will tell you, I'm glad that you brought up Ahsoka, because I think that's so compelling, because there's a lot of people. So I like watching the YouTube channel Screen Rant with Chris Gore. I think he has a really good handle on film and is very kind of unbiased. And he said that he did not like Ahsoka, but he basically realized that this was not made for him, because he needed to have watched two Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels, and they weren't for him. He didn't care about them. He criticized the show, but at the end of the day, he just goes, but I get it, because it's not for me. And I won't watch Ahsoka, because he also basically told me why I didn't like, Rebels and Clone Wars. And it was so perfect. Because I've said multiple times on this podcast, either I cut them or because we've talked about it, because you're like, you should check it out. And I always said that there's something off about the animation. And Chris Gore nailed the animation on the head, why I don't like it. And the animation style is basically Jerry Anderson's marionette puppets animated. And I'm like, oh my word, that's why I hate the Clone Wars and Rebels.
Yeah.
It now makes sense.
Which is a shame, because they're generally, storytelling wise, are really good. So it's,
animation's just not for me. So easy hard pass. Also, interesting thing I'd like to bring up, and this is about the Diary River song, because on the group that you're no longer a member of, one of the admins posted, Diary River Song, the Orphan Quartet is out. Comment here. And somebody, first off, somebody was complaining that one of the actors or whatever mispronounced Metabilius 3 yet again. Admin quickly comes in and swoops, and he's like, well, yeah, first world problems. Sure. Like, yeah, but you have a Facebook fan page group, and you're talking about something that relates to the fan page. Yes, this is a first world problem, but if that's the main, and maybe that's the main reason why they don't like criticism, is all of this criticism is first world problems. Also, probably might look badly when they return in their Paul Spags Memorial script. But I didn't appreciate that. But what I did like is somebody came in and said, man, this is sad. An end of an era. And at which point, admin swoops in and says, no, Diary of ... is stopping. Alex Kingston will still be a part of Big Finish and will be River Song. I suspect they're just getting rid of the volume numbers and stuff like that, which to me does not make any sense. If you're gonna, and like, this was never like a monthly range. No. This was always a box yearly set. Range.
Yeah.
And you don't really, and unless there might be a couple of arcs within box sets, but if memory serves me right, at least up to the ones that I've heard,
I think standalone box sets. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not the only range to be quote unquote ending. The War Doctor Begins is apparently ending.
Well, and just a second. So because we brought up Disney Plus and a couple other things, again, because the admin in the listeners group is so heavy-handed, I've like that discussion board died. I don't think anybody really felt comfortable saying anything else. So other group says, just throwing a theory out, the final River Song box set has been released. Could this be giving her own Disney Plus show? What do you think? And then there was a fun discussion about the what ifs. And I know that the Big Finish listeners group does not like what ifs and speculation. They like facts, unless the facts go against popular belief and could hurt their Paul Sprague Memorial script. But besides that, it was a fun discussion where fans were just like, well, I've kind of considered that myself. And you know what? Maybe because RTD is trying to, create a spinoff similarly to what he did with the Sarah Jane Adventures in Torchwood. And what are your thoughts? Would you be all for a Disney Plus River Song series?
Sure. But the one thing I want to see, and I hope this is true, is more cohesion between the TV series and Big Finish. I want references. I want, end credits. Oh, if you want to go and see the adventure that was referenced in the story, go listen to this story. Kind of credits. Do you know what I mean? Or put up an ad. At the end, have a those trailers that they used to do in the early days of Big Finish.
Yes,
with the animated bits and bobs. Like Sharda and all that.
Especially the Jubilee thing.
Yeah, do that. If they're going to do, if he's going to do what he says he's going to do, which I really hope he does, which is have more cohesion, more of a MCU feel, certain shows tying into certain shows or referencing each other. Hell yes. It's about bloody time. Make a Hooniverse. This is, that's what Big Finish has been doing for the past 20 years. It's not been written down. It's not been on paper. It's not been, this is the Hooniverse. What it kind of is, it's just now Russell T Davies has come out and said, yeah, I want to make and expand and actually have a Hooniverse. So, sure, go for it. If you're gonna pay dividends and reference stories that Big Finish have done, and point people to them, and at least consider the consequences in those stories going forward if you're going to write TV stories. Looking at you, the early 8th Doctor stuff with the Mary Shelley and Chibnall, for example, as a prime example. So sure, go for it if there's going to be more of a wider, cohesive, overall, quote-unquote, universe going forward. Yep, all for it.
Speaking of dictator, Chris Chibnall's Timeless Child, according to Screen Rant, this is the time in which Russell T Davies could retcon the entirety of the Timeless Child. And here's the annoying thing.
Talk about double standard article. Because I swear, exactly. Screen Rant were all for this 2 years ago, or even a year ago. I swear.
Well, here's an interesting thing to think about, especially when you check out top 10 lists. In fact, one of these days, I'm going to do this just out of curiosity. And that is, it's been said that some of these websites that do top 10 lists and whatnot, and this and that, are basically going to ChatGPT and having the AI create these top 10 lists, because within the top 10 lists, there is massive, not inaccuracies, but contradictions within the same article. And it's been brought up to my attention on some comic book things by some YouTubers that they're like, check out number 8, 9, and 10. And then they're like, now let's look at 2 and 3. Don't those contradict each other? And it's like, oh my word. And the theory is that all of these websites are pulling off all of their paid journalists, and they're going with a minimized staff that is just utilizing AI to create articles. And it kind of makes me wonder, with Screen Rant doing this, either A, they put their finger in the air and found out that, even though they were all for this a couple of years ago, well, now that everybody is glad that Ding Dong Chibnall's gone, now they have to either alter their stance, or this was not written by a person at all. It was written by an AI that, put a certain thing in a certain way. I don't know. I'd hate to be that kind of narrow-minded.
I kind of don't want to
be. Yeah.
I kind of don't want to live in that sort of state, because it's that thing of it's proper getting into like 1984 territory, isn't it? Of
oh yeah,
what to believe, what not to believe, what do you what's truth, what isn't, and yeah, I think some of that's been going on for a long time, but due to the inception of AI, I think it's only gone and sped up the process, unfortunately. Yes, it's useful, but again, useful in certain situations and, for certain things. But I don't want to say that you're right, but part of me goes, yeah, maybe, so I don't know.
Going into this, they give you a real good idea of why they should probably do this. Again, I think, the writing was on the wall. It was not a terribly well-conceived idea. It was an idea that spit on the fandom and canon and continuity. And the funny thing is I was trying to actually not share the Screen Rant article with you guys in the group. I was trying to share the Screen Rant article that was posted on Facebook with lots of commentary on the whole thing, because that's what I found really interesting about the entirety of the article. Because within the article, a lot of people said, well, and so one person criticized or basically agreed that, this was a horrible idea, saying, the Timeless Children was a plot device that was needed because what is going to happen every couple of years, the Time Lords are going to have to find a way to regenerate the Doctor. And it was funny because I felt as though that was possibly Screen Rant's and a couple of other websites' rationale for why the Timeless Child was good. And here's what I really like, because this required thought, retrospective, and critical thinking. And somebody replied to that one. They're like, hey, the show's been going on for 50 years. They needed to do it during Matt Smith's incarnation. Don't worry, it'll probably be another 50 years before the Time Lords have to do something like that again. And don't just do an easy cop-out of the Timeless Children for why that's a thing. Give the writers and creators credit for being able to come up with a new situation. And the person who's, replied to the first reply, the guy who posted it, saying that he was all for it, basically said, no, you're wrong. I do think that, this is a great idea going forward. And somebody replied to him saying, well, now that just basically takes any levity regarding what the Doctor does, and because they are immortal. And
yeah,
from that point forward, the guy, it's one of those problems that, did other fellow writers in Chibnall's circle say that there is a problem, or were people similarly to the Big Finish listeners group afraid to say anything and question anything?
God knows. But I mean, we've been saying this for 3 years now, 2 years now,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And only now, because everyone else is saying it, they jump on the bandwagon and go, oh, yeah, retcon it.
Yeah. So hopefully they'll do it. And like it was stated, whether or not you believe that Neil Patrick Harris will be the toy maker or not, having some sort of multi-dimensional Mixie Pickalick or whatever from Superman undoing certain things.
Oh my God.
That's what you need.
I've just thought of the best thing ever, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to know how the Timeless Child immortality thing gets undone?
How?
Pickle Rick turns up and shoots the Doctor with a portal gun. Problem solved.
Yes. Let's do that. Pickle Rick. I have a Pickle Rick magnet on my refrigerator.
Yeah.
I chuckle every single time I walk past it.
Because come on, let's face it. Pickle Rick will be way more of a cool villain than that frog, right?
I forgot about the frog. Why would you remind me?
Because of the pain, man, the pain.
Oh, I remember being on Twitter at the time, and because you guys get it about 7 hours before me, I was like every single thing in my timeline was about a stupid frog, and I'm like, oh, I don't know what they're talking about, because I probably should have realized it was about Doctor Who, but I'm like, man, people are really angry about a frog. And then, of course, I'm watching that episode, and I don't really have a problem with 88% of it. And then the last part, and then the frog, and then it falls flat on its face, and then it's like, oh yeah, this is what everybody on Twitter was complaining about. Yes.
Oh, dear God. So yeah, there you go. That's how you undo the immortality of the Doctor. You just insert them back into the land of fiction. Rick turns up, buggers off again, done. Problem solved.
So yeah, we either need Rick or the Great Kazoo from Flintstones or Mixie Pickalick from Superman to come and undo this whole thing. Or the Celestial Toy Maker.
Yeah.
Anyway. You have been listening to the Doctor Who Alhambra Podcast. Doctor Who is owned and trademarked by the BBC. Doctor Who Alhambra is not affiliated with the BBC or Big Finish. No infringement is intended. Visit our website at alhambrapodcast.weebly.com or email the show at alhambraaudio@gmail.com. Tweet us at Alhambra Podcast. That is ALHAMBRA Podcast. Thank you.